What's up, Epic 7? Bystander Hwayoung is out, and a pretty mixed bag of reviews on her. Does she need a buff? Is she any good? Should you pull this unit or should you wait? How good is she really? We've had a rash of ML5 units that are all kind of must-haves. If you didn't pull the new ML5 unit, you really didn't get to play in this season. Well, Bystander Hwayoung seems to break that mold in that she is really, really good if you can build her. And that's a big if. Let me tell you, I think I'm pretty safe to say that she is currently the hardest unit to build in the entire game as an effective unit. I think most people that try to use this unit are going to gear her in a way that isn't sufficient to carry her requirements, and she's going to feel really, really bad if you do that. So, should you pull this unit? Well, the very first thing you should do is see if you can get to the stats required to build this unit. The easiest way to do that is to hop over to the damage calculator, and that will be linked in the description of the video. And once you're in the damage calculator, you want to select Bystander Hwayoung and give her Sigurd's Scythe is by far and away the best damage dealing artifact on her, right? And then you want to go down here, you're going to select Elemental Advantage, because she's going to be going dark into light units. You want to select Pen Set, because I'm telling you, you can't build this unit if she doesn't have Pen Set. It's almost required for her to do enough damage. And then you're going to scroll down here and put the target defense that you think you're going into. Now, you want to say, let's be able to beat, 1,600 defense units, okay? Then scroll up here to the top and start playing with the numbers. Say, well, I can maybe do 3,500 and I can maybe do 330 crit damage. Well, you're going to be doing 23k damage on your S3s in the light units, and if you soul burn, you'll be doing 33k damage. So what this tells you is if this is the best you can do for your Hwayoung, you're only going to reliably kill if you can soul burn, or if you can reliably stick a defense break. If you stick a defense break on the target, she can kill anything that's defense broken. But you need to either reliably be able to defense break units, or you need to reliably be able to soul burn units, because her regular S3 is not going to kill much of anything, right? If you want to reliably kill on her S3, you need to be talking about 4,000 attack and 350 crit damage to reliably kill most light units. And even then, especially if a barrier set is involved, especially if an Aureus is involved, not because of damage transfer, but because Aureus gives 10% defense boost, so that really takes this up to 1760 defense, and suddenly you're not killing. That 10% defense boost from Aureus is significant. That's what's so hard to build, right? 4K 350 is not easy to build on her, not and have any kind of bulk or speed. And let me tell you, this is my first attempt at Hwayoung. 4,100 attack, 330 crit damage with 18k health. And still at 168 speed, still with a decent bit of bulk. I thought this was going to be amazing. I thought this is the damage it'll take to kill, and she's got the bulkiness to survive, even being slow enough so she'll cycle around. Let me tell you, I wasn't killing. If I soul burned, I was killing. But again, these kind of stat levels work as long as you can guarantee that you can soul burn, or you can guarantee that you can defense break. And that's a lot of conditions on a unit that is already very conditional. If you want to be able to reliably kill, you're talking about 4,300 attack, 350 crit damage to reliably kill most light units that have 1760 defense, or that have 1600 defense. 4,300, 350 crit damage. That's this Hwayoung. She's got no bulk whatsoever. I had to sack 8,000 health in order to get her to 43, 350. That's where she can kill things. And to make up for the fact that she's so glass, I had to put speed on her. If you try to run this build slow, you try to run this build like 160 speed or slower, she'll just die. she'll get focused and killed before she can do anything. You need to actually have her fast enough to take a turn. So I think she needs to be 190, 200 speed. What's that mean? That means it's almost impossible to do this on counter set. It's almost impossible to do this with attack boots. This is very, very good gear. This is averaging like a 98 equipment score build to get these stats. This is not accessible. This is not new player friendly. This isn't mid-game player. This isn't late game player friendly. She is a unit that is designed for the top 1%. Like Emperor and above can use this unit. Really, really high champs can maybe use her in a limited fashion where they're required to rely on soul burns. Now I know people will say, oh, but I've seen like KJ use them on counter set and it worked great. Yeah, KJ's not a normal human being. He's the top 1% of the top 1% of that top 1%. His gear is insane. He could gear Enot and make him look amazing. It doesn't necessarily mean that counter's a viable build. He could make a bad build look good. If you are having some success with counter on her, you do you. I'm glad it's working out for you. I have not seen it be functional. I've seen her just die. The only time it seems to be functional is when it's on defense, and you know, when counter sets are on defense, they proc every freaking time. You see, units that are on counter set, they need buffs to survive. They need barriers, they need immortality, and they need to be protected by defense buffs. They need things that can keep them alive, and you can't buff Hwayoung at all. She's got no external support other than a little bit of help from some mitigation, and that's kind of rough to keep her alive as a counter unit. So I do not recommend counter set on her. I think people that try to put her on counter set, it's going to feel really, really bad. I think she can't be slow. My 18k health one at 168 speed had very limited success with her. She died more often than she lived. At 18k health, I don't think she's a good bruiser. I think she's an aggro DPS unit, and I think you need to build her as such. So you need to put her on Destro set with pen set, or you need to put her on speed set with pen set. You need to get her on speed boots. You're going to want her in the 190 to 200 speed range. And on top of all that, you got to give her enough nuclear damage to actually kill things to make her feel good. And even with all this considered, there are still a lot of things that cause her problems. You can't take her into BBKs safely without support, because her S3 is gonna, or her S2 is gonna proc, and you're gonna go right into BBK, and that sure was great. Now BBK can nuke your whole team because it's got no health. Her S2 is gonna proc, and her S3 is going to go into Child Senya, which is gonna proc no bullying, and then she one-shots your Hwayoung. I mean, she doesn't quite one-shot mine. She just takes her down to about 1200 health left, puts her on death's door. It's not good. It sucks to have the crap kicked out of you by a Child Senya. If Bellion is on the team, especially a 3F Bellion, takes away your ability to soul burn, and if you're running a really tanky team, you know, maybe Arius, or not Arius, maybe Ilanov is involved, and suddenly my pen set's useless and I can't quite kill, it makes her so hard to use. Now, in situations where she works, she is amazing. I've had pretty good success with her in Arena, and pretty good success with her in Guild Wars, because I've got her built super strong like this now. Does she need a buff? I'm very, very concerned about what Smilegate would do if they buffed her. The biggest fear would be they would just let us put buffs on her, which is a terrible idea. Anybody that says this unit just needs to be able to be buffed and she's fine is a madman, right? Imagine what this unit would do with an attack buff. Imagine what she would do with stealth from Spatiotemporal Fan. Imagine what she would do with damage limit or immortality. It would be ruinous. It would turn her into a turbocharged OG Fire Hwayoung. She would rule the meta, and you would not be allowed to play the game without her unless you just force banned her every single time. So no, please, for the love of God, stop asking Smilegate to let us buff this unit. That is not the way to fix this. The problem with her is people are going to get her. They're going to try to build her. She's going to hit like a wet noodle. She's going to die. They aren't going to be able to accomplish it because they don't have the gear. And that's not their fault. Most people don't have this gear. 99% of the players in this game don't have the gear to make this unit work. And I mean just baseline work, like you use soul burns and shit to make her work. Most people don't have that. And of that 1% that have that gear, only 1% is what's left have the gear to make her good. That's a tiny, tiny fraction of the players of this game, which means the majority of the people are going to say this unit is mid, this unit needs a buff. What she needs is to be more accessible. My recommendation would be to give her 50% crit chance innate, like what Zio has or Zahak has, right? Just give us some gear score to make it easier to build her. That way, with that 50 free crit chance, I can reallocate those stats into damage, into survivability, into speed. I could actually maybe make a counter build work because I've got all these leftover stats that I can allocate into survivability and speed and damage. That would help. That would go a long way. Another way to address it would be to increase her damage versus light units so that people who can only build 3,800 attack and 330 crit damage will still be able to one-shot light units, because that is her primary job, is taking out light units. And if she S3s and almost kills a light unit, and then her passive goes off, and even if that passive hits another light unit, it still only almost kills it. Now she's on your team, basically being useless for 3 rounds while the enemy runs you over. Feels awful. Another nice one would be if they could somehow code her extra pack passive so that it goes only into light units as long as light units are available, and then is random if no light units are available, so that you don't have to worry about her passive making that S3 go into Child Senya and bricking the run, or that S3 going into BBK and bricking your run. That would help out a lot. So those are some ideas for how to responsibly tweak her, because Smilegate needs to be very, very responsible with the tweak on this. Now, will she get a buff? What happened with Lua is everybody said Lua wasn't very good, and the community believed it. Even though Lua was one of the top 30 units drafted with a top 20 win rate in RTA, people still said she wasn't good, and the community believed it and stopped pulling on the banner. And Smilegate came out with a big statement saying, we've heard the feedback, and it looks like Lua is not performing up to expectations. By the way, whenever they say a unit is not performing up to expectations, it means they're not making money off of the unit, because according to every metric, Lua was performing well above expectations, but nobody was pulling on her, so the expectation of a unit is to be something people desire and pull for, and she fell off. What I think is going to happen with Hwayoung is word's going to get out that if you are the average or even above average Epic 7 player, you probably don't have the gear necessary to support this unit, and even if you do, she's a very niche use unit. So people are going to stop pulling on her banner, and that's going to trigger Smilegate to buff her. So I do think it's very likely she'll get an emergency buff. I can't guarantee it, but I think it's likely, and it all depends on how well her banner continues to do into the next couple of weeks. Should you pull for her? Try to build her. She is a Scorpio warrior. Find other Scorpio warriors. The Immortal Wukong is a Scorpio warrior. Arunka is a Scorpio warrior. If you were here for the ReZero collab, Rem is a Scorpio warrior. Lone Crescent Bologna is a Scorpio warrior. There's a lot of Scorpio warriors out there. Find one and try to build it. If it's a Scorpio warrior and it's a 5-star unit, whatever gear you put on this unit, those are the stats that your Hwayoung will have. Take those stats over to the damage calculator and see if the unit looks functional to you or not. And if you cannot build a functional Hwayoung, don't pull on her, because she's not one of those units that kind of works okay even if you're understated. She's one of those units that you either meet the stat threshold, which again, 4K 350 at 190 plus speed, that's your stat threshold. If you can't meet that threshold, she's going to feel very, very bad if you don't have souls, and if you don't have defense breaks. It's going to feel very bad. So I'd recommend you don't pull her. Now, if you can pull her, go for it. But you might want to wait for about 1.5 more weeks. In 1.5 more weeks, we'll know what the next rotation is. And the Year of the Dragon is ending early. So one of the conspiracy theories is, since the Year of the Dragon ends on January 29th, is the next banner is going to have dragons in it, right? Dragon Bride Senya, ML Luna, right? New Moon Luna. Maybe Ilanov. These are all dragons, right? So maybe. Now, I mean, that's a bit of a tinfoil hat theory, but still, maybe you want to wait and see, because all three of those units are currently better than Bystander Hwayoung. It's not that she's bad, but she is certainly not meta, and she certainly takes some of the best gear in the game to make work. So that's my recommendation. Don't pull. Don't pull yet. Wait and see if she's buffed. Wait and see if some gigabrain chefs up some insane tech that lets you do crazy things with her that nobody has thought of yet. Unless you just can't stop staring at her, right? Don't get me wrong. Oh my god. I mean, she's just all hanging out there, isn't she? I'm sorry, I got distracted. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah. If you're a collector or you're pulling for waifu, then you do you, man. I'm just talking specifically about meta use in the game. Right now, she's a top 1%er unit, and she is not for everybody. In fact, she is not for most people. So is she for you? Let me know in the comment section. Let me know what your ideas are for a responsible buff. Please don't say, let her be buffable. Can you imagine this unit on Benimaru's Tachi? Oh my god, get wrecked. She'd kill everything in one shot. Nobody needs that. Give me some ideas in the comment section for responsible ways Smilegate could improve this unit to make her more accessible to the average players, to make her more functional in gameplay without breaking the game. We don't need every single unit to be a must-have or you can't participate. We're not talking about turning her into Luna or turning her into Ilanov or turning her into Lua. We're talking about making her a unit that people can enjoy and play and use in the game, and not have it just feel like they wasted their money pulling something that just feels mid. That's my take. I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. If you have any questions, hit me up on Discord. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and you guys have a great rest of your day. Take care, Epic 7.